Ooh, I may have to disable the comments on this one. What are the chances that Donald Trump will be overthrown by the US military? Now, it seems a strange question because the United States is basically the most stable nation in the entire world. It has existed as a continuous nation, presidents, power, constitution, Congress, everything, for over 200 years, nearly 300. So, we're asking, what if Donald Trump was overthrown by the US military? The idea of a military coup in a developed Western democracy seems far-fetched. However, in May 1958, France faced a military revolt in Algeria that threatened to spread over to the French mainland. But France, it also has a history of, insecurity. So it might not be necessary to start preparing for a military takeover in the US, but with American politics at their most unpredictable for years, the possibility of such a course of action has been mooted in the US mainstream since before Trump was even elected. So if we take it up as a thought experiment, what stands in the way of an American coup actually happening? There are plenty of factors. First and foremost is the ingrained legitimacy of the civilian commander-in-chief, to whom the US military has been subordinate for 250 years. But it's important to remember that the US military's oath is taken to defend the Constitution. If there were ever clear evidence that the president had acted to subvert the Constitution, and I'm not suggesting this about Trump, of course, and Congress proved unable or unwilling to impeach that president, the military's first obligation might come into question. The second major obstacle to a successful coup is the fact that the military authority is not invested in one person. The National Guard, unless called into federal service, is subject to the authority of state governors. Meanwhile, the US's gun control laws means that any potential leaders of a military coup would have to deal with the problem of well-armed citizenry. Neutralize these two fronts of potential resistance, the plotters of an American military coup would need to deny them information on what's happening, and just as importantly, to deny any would-be loyalists the time or the ability to attack. The last major obstacles are the sheer size of the United States and the way power is diffused across it. Any coup would have to do more than simply secure Washington, D.C. To seize maximum control over the centers of political, financial, and media power, it would also at a minimum need to secure Manhattan and large parts of Los Angeles. This would mean that deploying troops from the 10th Mountain Division at Fort Drum, New York, the 1st Marine Division at Camp Pendleton in San Diego, and the Marine Base at Quantico, Virginia. However, any plot would have two crucial things working in its favor. First, the sheer implausibility of a coup means that the U.S. domestic intelligence agency, particularly the FBI, aren't exactly looking for signs of unrest within the military. And second, the sheer size and complexity of the U.S. military means that the conspiracy involving those of sufficiently higher rank could move substantial military assets without raising too many questions. So the most critical thing any successful plot would have to do is shut down all communications across the continental U.S. One of the key reasons why the 2016 coup attempt in Turkey with Erdogan failed was that the president was able to put out a counter-narrative to the coup plotters via FaceTime. I was therefore able to mobilize civilian demonstrations against the military in very large numbers in a very short amount of time. Given Trump's fondness for Twitter, we can easily see him doing something similar. But a nationwide communications blackout might be easier to achieve than it sounds. Several reports, both private and governmental, have pointed out major weaknesses in the U.S. power and utility grids, which were designed in an era before computers were routinely networked. This makes them extremely vulnerable to cyber attack. The U.S. makes no secret of having an offensive cyber capability of its own. Indeed, the U.S. Cyber Command stated that it has tried to use this technology against the Islamic State. Any successful plot would have to secure the military's own communication network, would mean taking the National Military Command Center of the Pentagon, through which any order of the U.S.'s nuclear arsenal or conventional military must pass. Located in the heart of the Pentagon, this system operates continuously, and its most sensitive parts are manned by small crews. For the system to be not just taken but maintained, those people would need to be supporters of the coup, or at least compliant with it. If the leader of the coup is someone with military legitimacy, the Secretary of Defense, say, or the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, it would not be impossible to arrange this. Any successful coup would also need to physically secure the president. Unlike some of his predecessors, Trump actually makes this relatively easy. His Mar-a-Lago retreat in Florida is on a peninsula, making it very easy to cut off from the mainland. All the plotters would have to do is create a roadblock on the road and secure a helipad. This in turn means that the ideal time to mount a coup would be over a public holiday. Not only would Trump almost certainly be in his Florida getaway, but most ordinary people would be away from their homes, so government departments would be minimally staffed. So this has obviously let out a great deal of detailed planning that would actually be required for a real-life coup to happen. How would the coup leaders deal with Congress? How would any armed resistance be dealt with? Although a successful military coup in the US is extremely unlikely, under the right circumstances, is far from impossible to achieve. I mean, to examine the possibility of this, the only way this could reasonably happen is if everyone opposes the president. I mean, everyone. And the second thing that has to happen is if the president refuses to resign. So, if every other option has been exhausted, Congress, if it's allied with the military in this hypothetical scenario, would still have capabilities under the Constitution to declare that the president is unfit. Only a scenario that threatened humanity or something would catalyze an uprising. Like the President Trump would have to declare a nuclear war with China or something. I mean, basically, the end of the world is going to happen before a coup happens, is what I'm saying. I mean, after a coup happens, they would, of course, say that they're following the Constitution. It's only a temporary government. They're going to add a president who's more qualified to come into power. However, there's going to be pushback from Trump supporters. But these people's firearms are not going to stand a chance against the American military. The federal government is hesitant to use force against armed groups, but that's in cases when the entire safety of the nation is not at stake. If a coup were to happen and people tried to rebel using guns, the military would put them down with no hesitation, no second guessing. If Trump tries to rebel using his own armed mercenaries or something of that sort, again, the U.S. military is way too powerful. I mean, essentially, the U.S. military could take on most of the world and survive. So imagine the power if a president with a few scraggly troops try to rebel. There will be several weeks of chaos, plus the shocking sight of a president being exiled or killed or put in jail, and crackdowns on communication, and the break, essentially, with 2 centuries of peaceful transfer of power. People are not expecting this. America, of all places, people would be shocked beyond all belief. So if a coup were to happen, that might just mean the end of the world. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe for more great content. This is Call of the Road, signing out.
Get the fuck out of here! Our country! Proud fucking American! Made in USA, bitch! Go fucking make my tortilla, motherfucker! And build that fucking wall for me! Trump! I love Trump!